Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them, not just the best and worst, sometimes in the middle. Most of the time in the middle, I'd say. My name is Ben Errington. Spectrum of Quality. My name is Ben Errington. I'm joined by regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. Sorry, very bad form. Obviously, have a week off. Speaking out of turn now already before you'd introduced me.
That's all right.
I'm so confused.
I'm adding long pauses in there just for dramatic effect, and you're leaping in to fill those pauses, which is good as a podcast host, I believe. You know,
none of that dead air business. Not even a horror podcast. But missed you guys last week. It's a shame I couldn't come and talk to you both about Tetsuo the Iron Man.
But the Iron Man, yeah, exactly. I don't think I got your opinion on the film before the recording as well, which I usually do if somebody can't make it. But what was your opinion on the movie?
I mean, don't want to retread the ground that you and Amber covered. I think I will agree with you that it is a very frantic, headache-inducing movie at times, and I think, like you, it does stick with you, right? It's one that the visuals in particular, you think, oh, that was horrible on occasions.
Yeah. How did you feel about the phallic imagery?
Well, you know, who can get enough phallic imagery, whether it's drills or big long hoses or all kinds of stuff, or being a big sort of penis tank thing at the end.
Yeah, it was a big penis tank thing. Did you get Shenmue vibes as well? Like I think I mentioned I mentioned that on the podcast, didn't I?
And was like, what are you talking about? I wasn't a Dreamcast kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very like the suburb that we're in had lots of the Shenmue town thing. Yeah. I came away with a slightly different
less stick.
Yeah, a little bit less of that. Roya Hazuki isn't being violated by a hose at any point, or going around drilling people, or having a rivalry with a metal fetishist. I came away with a slightly different take. Sorry, Ben, diving straight into hardcore metaphor gathering straight away here in a section normal for usually lovely, benign chat. But my takeaway from Tetsuo the Iron Man was, should be serious, the Iron Man, was that I thought less about the body angle or the transhumanism angle, and I thought a lot about the opposing ideologies of the metal fetishist and the salaryman, and they were in such conflict, and you see how they keep escalating these things to a point where their conflict between them threatens actually to destroy the whole world anyway. To when they come to a conclusion that what they're going to do is have this mutually assured destruction that will just end the world and coat it all in metal, which for me spoke a lot about the ongoing arms race of nuclear proliferation. I think it was a lot on those angles. Maybe it's not. I don't know what the director intended. I almost deliberately, because at the time we changed schedule last minute, otherwise I would have been there to talk to you guys about it live, but I, on purpose, didn't read any essays to see if there were any interviews with the director. Just I wanted to see what the take from the audience was without thinking, "Oh, this is what they actually meant." But now we're past it. I do have it as a to-do list to have a look at what the actual director intended. You've seen the sequel, though, right?
Yeah, I saw the sequel. So, as I think I mentioned, it's a far more traditional film, I guess, in terms of like there's a distinct plot and good guys and bad guys, and there's a character arc and a first, second, and third act, all that stuff that the wimps do,
all the stuff you look for. Yeah, you
all the stuff, normies. But I thought it was just as good as a very, very different film, but I think still had some very depraved sort of imagery, and it was effective in that way. But yeah, I think that's a good metaphor to look at. The arms race, kind of like two guys who are like locked together in the unstoppable force versus the immovable object in a dick measuring contest in ways.
Big metal dick measuring contest.
Big metal dick measuring contest. They don't care who gets caught up in the carnage,
Don't care about those little pussycats get turned into tin cans, do they?
No, people's bikes get screwed up into little balls of metal just because they get whizzing by.
Someone's livelihood. That's how they get to work.
So
Didn't think of that, did they? Could be like there could be little old fella. The only way he goes to get his pension every week on his bike, a little bit too far to walk with his knees.
People just don't care, do they?
No,
And I think if you're not
just loves that metal.
metal, if you're knocking about with a name such as metal fetishist, I still can't say it. You're asking for trouble. I say.
You are.
Think just call yourself, Dave. Maybe not in Japan, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that was an interesting episode. I think now and then it's nice to do a little corner of cinema that's slightly different, and maybe, I mean, still had a good time, but maybe have a slightly more serious chat about the world we live in and where these films fit into the community of world filmmaking. So yeah,
it was an interesting episode. I enjoyed listening to it while I was on the way back from London on the train. It was a night train. I had a little listen to you guys.
I'm on the night train. Fill my cup. You were on the night train. Did you have a glass of night train on the? I think it's just American White Lightning, I believe. It's just like some sort of hard. I would say hard liquor, but I don't know. Hard ale or something.
Maybe cider.
Maybe a cider. Hard cider.
Yeah, I didn't. My train was at 5 to midnight, so I just had a little listen to the podcast, and then thought.
So how long was the journey in total?
The train back, I left London at about 10 to midnight, and you get home. You get back to Scotland about 6 in the morning, just before 7 back in Glasgow. It wasn't too bad.
So you had a little sleep on there as well?
The sleep was lovely, ever so nice.
You get tucked up tight as well?
No, none of the blankets or anything. It's not quite that fancy. You can get rooms, but they were all sold out. So I just had a chair. So I just put my jacket over my legs. Put my headphones on.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
And in many ways, and it takes you a little bit longer. It doesn't burn as many dinosaur bones as flying though. So I feel like I'm doing my bit.
That's true. You're doing your bit, and a nice passive bit of travel as well, which is lovely.
It was ever so nice.
It was lovely.
But yeah, you were great company you were great company as I was going back.
I'm glad to hear it. That's good. So other than that, this week you've been all over the place. You did a little run dressed as Santa on Sunday as well.
Yeah, I did. It is the season and all that. We're rapidly heading down to Christmas time.
Did anyone confuse you for the real Santa Claus? Was there a moment when there he is?
Well, to be fair, there was some volunteers. They said, keep going, Santa. But I heard them say that several times. I'm not sure if they were just very confused or.
So confused to me. Keep going, Santa, and you were like, "It's Andy. It's Andy," and they went, "Don't ruin the illusion."
Yeah, for
God's sake.
I just explained to them that I'm one of Santa's helpers because he's very busy this time of year.
That's true. That's what the Santa Claus said in the Gallery Shopping Centre in Bristol to me every week. And I always did think, how have you made time to be in the Gallery Shopping Centre in Bristol in 1989?
To be fair, I think as far as Santa lies go, I think that's the one that most kids would really get on board with. Because
where did you see your Santa?
Where did I see a Santa? Was never a fan of people in costumes growing up. I tried to avoid it.
Okay. Yeah. I think I was always a little bit. I was definitely cynical. I remember meeting a guy dressed as Raphael, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, once, and he's very unconvincing. I think if I remember correctly, he just had trainers on, to which I was just fuming about.
Where's your turtle feet?
Where's your turtle feet, mate? You at least make the effort. At least wear green trainers. Fucking bright white Reebok Classics.
Reebok Classics. That's
Reebok Classics. Yeah, I do remember that, and it was
We're delving into real fears here, Ben. I'm never a fan of a mascot growing up. Can't see their real eyes. Don't like it.
Cold dead eyes. Yeah, it was pretty terrifying. I think I took Megan to meet a quite terrifying Peppa Pig when she was really young as well. And all I remember is that Megan was absolutely off her face on sugar. I think she'd been to a birthday party, if I remember correctly. And I just remember her like wide-eyed and just like rabid, like, it's Peppa Pig! And this Peppa Pig had a big
she loved it.
Weird folded head that like wouldn't stay in place. And I was just like, this is terrifying.
If you ever want to see like this, I'm not sure you'll have seen it. You'll probably come up if you type in oh hi Eeyore. Do a search for oh hi Eeyore on the YouTubes. Not now, save it for later.
Save it for later.
But this is
I can just see the thumbnail. It's just a kid in pure
absolutely
terror.
losing his shit. That was me growing up. I was not a fan of those
I feel like I'd like
things.
I feel like I'd like to witness this. Just you go.
Oh no, I wasn't a fan. And when the cinema first opened, the multiplex, there were big people. It was a UCI, and there were people in those things dressed as just reels of film. It was celluloid. Not a fan.
That does sound terrifying. Dressed as
Were
reels of. It's when
real
things get and what's the word?
anthropomorphized.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. It's like when you take anything and apply that to it. Like football mascots are weird. There's a football mascot which is like just a boiler. Like I think it's sponsored by like some sort of plumbing company or something.
Freddy Krueger, the boiler.
yeah, Freddy Krueger the boiler. Oh wait, I'm just watching Ohio. Oh no, he's like hiding me. Okay, there's no point watching something that the listeners can't hear, so just carry on. But
save yourself, listeners. Enjoy yourself at Ohio. That was my horror experience as a kid. But
yeah.
Apart from that, horror experience for kids nowadays. What's in the news this week, Ben?
What is in the news this week? So, we got a couple of stories. The first one I noticed earlier this week was that there was a new image shared from Evil Dead Rise, which gives us a first look at the main characters. I think there was some sort of event Bruce Fest. Bruce Campbell hosted Bruce Fest then shared an image and said, I think they shared like a first look at Evil Dead Rise, whether it was a teaser trailer or just like some footage or something. But yeah, and then the rest of us shit munchers got to eat a lovely image from the movie Evil Dead Rise, which is kind of like got like a close up of someone's face who may be or may not be possessed or about to be possessed, and then a family of various ages of young ladies. It looks like I can't remember what the relationship of them is. What kind of shot is this? Where it's like the right hand of the shot is in focus and so is the second hand, and the little, what is that shot called? It's very famous.
God. Not
What's
technical.
It called?
Ben. I didn't go to film school.
I'll find out in a minute. Yeah, so this is interesting. I feel it's only a matter of time before we're going to get some sort of trailer because it's out on April the 21st. I can imagine. Will they make us wait till next year? I mean, it would be a shame if
would they put one out around Christmas time? Who knows? Don't want to get lost in the buzz of Christmas.
Yeah, you remember when Jordan Peele used to drop the trailers on Christmas Day for like Us. I'm not sure about Nope.
Put them out on Christmas Day. What else on? The bloody Queen. She was on. She ain't on this year. Cancelled.
It's been bloody cancelled. Repeats. No.
You put her best bits on.
Put her best bits on. Yeah. So there's that. And what else have we got in terms of horror news? There is an official trailer now for HBO's The Last of Us series. I think beforehand we did get a sort of teaser trailer / minute long footage, but this is like a couple of minutes long, and we get a good look at all of the main characters, some of the story beats, some interesting visuals, some monsters, some infected, bloaters, and it looks like they're repurposing some of the soundtrack into the movie, which I'm glad about. Into the show, sorry. I'm glad about it because so many things don't make the most of that. And I think it adds so much to the vibe and the atmosphere of those things that it's super, super important, especially like a main theme. Like I think as long as you've got the main theme of something, you're kind of setting the scene already. And it seems to keep that. The voice artists, Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, are in it as well. We've kind of seen we didn't know what their roles were going to be, but now we see that, even though it's not specified. And it looks like that the DLC, the prequel Left Behind, is going to be taken advantage of as well in this story.
Right?
Yeah, so very, very interesting. I'm very excited for this. Probably more excited than anything I've been looking forward to TV show wise in a long, long time. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the trailer.
I haven't watched it yet. Partially because I feel like I've got this long and I know some fairly major plot points. Anything that you consider a big spoiler, I know from the plot of both games now, because it's hard to avoid because people don't harp on about these things. But I don't really know a lot of things about just the moment to moment of Last of Us at this point. Ain't no way I'm getting both of them finished before the series comes out. So I might go and watch the series first, I think I might watch that as it comes out.
Shouldn't that be an interesting? Yeah, definitely. Oh, the shot I was looking for, going back to the Evil Dead thing, split diopter.
Oh,
using
very
a split
good.
diopter lens. It's where the immediate foreground is in focus and the distant background is in focus in the same shot. So that was what I thought this image was.
Every day's a school day. We've learned that today.
Every day's a school day, and I usually start with, what's that thing called with the thingy bob and the other thing? Yeah, oh no.
That's how we learned asking questions.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the Last of Us show because, yeah, it's one of those things. When you're kind of like, what property would you love to see a TV show / movie of? I think since The Last of Us came out, 2013, it's kind of been one that's always been on the list for me, I think. So yeah, very, very exciting. And the other piece of news that I saw is Mike Flanagan, creator of Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Club, Midnight Mass. He has signed a multi-year series deal with Amazon Studios, and that has directly impacted the Midnight Club season 2. Apparently, it's not happening. It's not been picked up for a second series, and anyone who did watch that, I think maybe you saw some of it. I've
got one episode to finish, so now I will finish it. I've got that close to the end. I'm going to finish the Midnight Club, but
I think Mike Flanagan put out sorry that I'm disappointed Netflix not going to pick up for a second series, because maybe they would have gone and committed to a second series with someone else at the helm, possibly. I don't actually know, but he put out a tweet with some content attached, which had his plans for season 2 and also some questions to be answered from season 1. So
just the answers to the questions, or just what the questions were?
I think the answers to the questions. Oh, you wondered about this? Well, this is what we were going to do.
Is it right? It's a bloody ghost. It was a ghost that did it.
It was a bloody ghost all along, all right, for God's sake.
They would have all been fine. That'd be a good opportunity to just proper tie it all off. Yeah, they would have been fine. They would have all got married. This is it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I don't. So it just seems like they're moving to Amazon Studios. Maybe they're gonna. It's Mike Flanagan and Trevor Macy of Intrepid Pictures. Intrepid Pictures, yeah.
It's really going to get into the game, though, isn't it, Ben? With the streaming services going for these exclusivity things. Like back in the days of just studios, didn't care what studio made it because it'd come out on things. But now the studios themselves are also the platforms, and they want exclusivity on it. It's a weird world. I know exclusivity is the thing that, where you get your tentpole things. We're most familiar with it in games. Yeah, your Marios and your Sonics and nowadays you've got your Gods of War on the PlayStations and your Halos on your Xboxes and stuff like that. But for better, round about it, especially when there are so many different streaming services, typically there's PC pretty much is everything. There's really only 3 major consoles that are going to have exclusives one way or another. I haven't done the maths, Ben, but there are infinity billion streaming services. Ain't no way in this economy that I'm having them all.
Billion.
So it's a really weird thing that you get this creative that's going to only work for this particular.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it?
Studio.
I believe that Fall of the House of Usher, the horror series based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe, is going to be out next year, and that's from the same two, Flanagan and Mike Flanagan, Trevor Mason. That's going to be on Netflix as well. So I guess that
one's already done, right? So
it's already done, I guess. Yeah,
things that are already done. Shame about the Midnight Club though. Like lots of, especially it's like one that's got lots of like young talent.
That's the only one I haven't seen, and for me, I think Midnight Mass was my favorite. Of the other 3.
Midnight Club's been good, and I've enjoyed quite a lot of it, but it hasn't overtaken Midnight Mass yet because I really, really enjoyed that.
So that is all I've got for horror news. I guess we're moving on to now what we've been watching. Andy Conduit Turner, what have you seen in the last 7 days or 14 days? As you were
I've been away for a couple of weeks. So I've got a little bit of a list for you. been still consuming a lot of horror content recently, so I'll rattle through a few of these. Do let me know if you want to pause to talk about any in more detail. But first, as it was the season, American friends were having Thanksgiving, so I enjoyed Thanksgiving about the mystical evil turkey. He was up amongst it and doing some murders. It's a very silly, schlocky horror movie. Like, yeah, there's not much to say about it.
I've never seen this.
It's absolute madness.
There's a sequel, isn't there, apparently?
There is, but the sequel is Thanksgiving 3, which is about the missing tapes of Thanksgiving 2, and it's in space. I've not seen it yet, but it looks like a
Troll 2 scenario, have they?
They have. So there's Thanksgiving, which I watched. Keeping with the theme of that, I watched another like low budget, ridiculous slasher. I watched The Ginger Dead Man.
Oh yeah.
You never guess who voices the Ginger Dead Man.
I actually don't know. Go on.
Think of a scary Hollywood man who I think in his natural state is quite scary.
I've just seen it.
But you get it. Perfect casting. Gary Busey.
Wow. See, I genuinely think that the design of the Ginger Dead Man is scary. I think his face is horrible, and his teeth. I mean, they've obviously added the teeth for effect, haven't they? Because it's Gary Busey, and he's got some serious jumpers on him.
Yeah,
isn't there a Ginger Dead Man Evil Bong film? Isn't that
there is a Ginger Dead Man crossed over with the Evil Bong, but the Evil Bong there's more entries in that than you would expect. Probably almost as many as Hellraiser. I'm not sure I've got that in me.
Is that the next franchise?
The next franchise?
The next big franchise you're gonna cover?
I think I'm gonna. I've listed that out. Actually, I think I'm gonna tackle Texas Chainsaw next, or maybe The Exorcist franchise.
Okay.
But
the way you were saying that then was as if you've gone from Ginger Dead Man, Frank's Killing, you go, maybe I'll try a bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre next. We're probably on the same level.
The Evil Bong / Ginger Deadman cinematic universe, not quite. That might go on the back burner for a while. But in keeping with the holidays, after I watched Thanksgiving, I watched 2021's holiday-centric movie, Black Friday. It has Bruce Campbell in it as a store manager. It has Devon Sawyer in it. It's that was fun. It's got big Slither energy. Has Black Friday. Not quite the same execution. It doesn't have the heart that James Gunn brings to a movie sometimes, but it is a lot of fun. Just a bit of silly horror movie fun in that one. It's a bit over the top. You've got Bruce Campbell's physical acting that translates to the entire cast. The type of it's got some over the top gore effects. It's just a fun holiday throwaway movie.
Because it was Black Friday, I did see that pop up on a few feeds. Sorry to jump backwards again. Do you reckon you could name any of the Evil Bong sequels?
Now I looked them up on Letterboxd, but they have passed from my memory already. There's some ridiculous ones. Throw them out there.
Evil Bong 2, King Bong.
Isn't there an Evil Bong 666 and then the follow-up to that is Evil Bong 777?
Yeah. So Evil Bong 3, The Wrath of Bong. Evil Bong 420, obviously.
Oh, of course, naturally.
Evil Bong High 5, Evil Bong 666, and Evil Bong 777. It's like they've gone, there ain't really anything we can do for 7.
And then Evil Bong eventually versus the Ginger
Dead Man, yeah. What a time to be alive, eh? That these films are. Oh, someone else is voicing the. Oh, that's a shame. But is it worth going checking out Evil Dead Man? Ginger Dead Man, Evil Dead Man.
The Ginger Dead Man is ridiculous and is mostly set just in the back room of a baker's shop.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a bit where one of the assistants, she gets pretty iced, gets covered in icing sugar and decorated like a cake by the Ginger Dead Man. She gets better from that actually. But there's lots of for being a gingerbread man, most of his attacks basically involve stabbing or shooting you normally. He does possess a man that eats him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's absolute nonsense. Both Thanksgiving and the Ginger Dead Man I think come from the same DNA as films like Jack Frost. But for me personally, it might just be the Christmas season talking, Ben. But I don't think they have quite that element of magic that I really get
Nothing
from
comes
Jack Frost.
close.
Doesn't quite.
Nothing comes close.
They don't quite hit the X factor that Jack Frost himself has.
Okay.
I've been going through some other classics. Let me run through these for you swiftly. I watched Alone in the Dark, not that one, not the Uwe Boll one, but Alone in the Dark, one. like an 80s slasher. I watched The House on keeping with the 80s slashers, watched The House of on Sorority Row, where I'm not sure I picked this up. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. For some reason, the killer in that dresses like a life-size Jack in the Box man when they pop out, but I don't think that's necessarily ever explained. It's about someone who's had a terrible trauma. And the slightest anxiety might set them over the edge.
You're not finding some of these horrors on Prime, are you? Because I noticed that on Amazon Prime, there's a hell of a lot of bad.
There's an awful lot of these old horrors, but I've got some old physical copies to get through some of these. I'm trying to clear some shelves, and I need to watch some of these old ones at least once, see if they're
watch them and
making the cut, making the cut or not.
Yeah.
But I also did Prom Night. Both I did a Last House on the Left scenario. Ben, I watched both the original and the remake of Prom Night.
Oh, lovely.
Wow, yeah.
Okay.
They're both fun little slashers. I watched All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, a cautionary tale about having a relationship with Amber Heard.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I watched that. I watched Warlock, where the nice professor from the Arachnophobia movie is Orid Warlock from the past who comes to the future. And he's fucking people up with magic left, right, and center.
Are you an Orid Warlock? I gotta be honest, I am an horrible warlock.
And he's horrible warlock, and he curses this woman so she ages 20 years every day.
Oh,
and she's only got a couple of days to get there, otherwise she'll be dust by midweek.
Absolute dust.
So yeah, to be honest, surprised.
Wait, it's Julian Sands.
Julian Sands, that's his name.
Julian Sands.
Julian. From Ghosts of Monday that we saw at a recent film festival. Yeah, Julian Sands, horrible warlock. I'm so used to him being the softly spoken and nice professor of arachnophobia. He's a horrible wizard from the past. He's on a mission.
Horrible wizard. How many warlock films are there?
2, I think.
There's a film called Warlock the Armageddon, it seems, as well.
Is that the second one, maybe?
Bloody druids and warlocks and
tell you
magic
what, the
rooms.
warlock, you'll never guess what he's up to. He's trying to get these secret pages of this book because it's got God's name in the book. And if you find out God's actual name and say it backwards, he's like Mr. Mixospidolic from the fifth dimension. He'll unmake the universe if you do that. Don't know why the warlock would want to do that, but he does.
Well, only if you say someone's name backwards.
Yeah, and it's up to Richard E. Grant and a plucky young just woman who's in the beginning of the film for some reason. Who's
Richard E. Grant's in it.
Yeah, he's a witch. He's a witch finder. He's not a nasty witch finder like Matthew Hopkins. He's a nice one.
He's a nice witch finder, like Vin Diesel.
Yeah, exactly. So it's him, and they come to the modern day and try and stop Julian Sands. I watched Trilogy of Terror, which is a great little anthology, but has all of the same lead actor as a role in each of the stories. And this is the one that you'll have seen, maybe if you've watched the recent Shudder 101 Greatest Horror Moments. Shows the camera effect of them pushing along on the skateboard as this little dolly chases this woman around the house, and it's really effective. Savage little doll who's so frantic.
What's this film called again?
Trilogy of Terror.
Trilogy of Terror. And that's with the little shrunken head doll, right?
Yeah, that's him. He's part of that. He's part of that. So that was a good series. I enjoyed that one. I watched Trick or Treat, another anthology with old Pumpkin Boy.
Is this the last 2 weeks we're talking here, Andy?
Last 2 weeks, yeah. I've been blazing away. So it's Trick or Treat. I watched I've watched a film from the original not the original, the 90s reboot of our era, Ben, of The Outer Limits. So I watched the first bit of that.
Oh yeah, you did say that.
Old Sand Kings. I watched that, and I
have to make a note of some of these because I'm going to forget, and I need to
have a little bonanza of these, Ben. I recommend some of these. I think of all of them, the original of Prom Night is worth a watch, as is the Trilogy of Terror.
Yeah.
I, on Saturday, went to a lovely festive performance, went to a pantomime, because I'm a spooky boy though, Ben. It was
Oh
Dracula.
yeah, it was very
Dracula, the
Dracula.
panto I went to
He's
see.
behind you.
I
Was it all
did.
that stuff?
I shouted that. She wasn't listening though. Ever so frustrating. She was like, "All right, I'll just
God.
look over here," and I was like, "You're not
Oh, you deserve.
pivot on the spot, love. Turn straight around."
Yeah. No peripheral vision at all.
Yeah, yeah. And just take my word for it. That if a whole crowd of people shout, "Oh yes, it is," doesn't matter if they don't shout, if they didn't quite shout enthusiastically enough. We just take their word for it.
Yeah,
The majority of
especially when there's a Dracula knocking about.
the majority have spoken.
That's true.
Yeah. So
We live in a democracy.
it was very fun. It was like a local amateur dramatics production. So is it's got the
nice.
scenes in it that you'd see, but it was a lot of fun. I had a bloody lovely time. And then Ben,
Sounds like good fun.
Just to finish off, the week, I have made a start on new survival horror game, the Callisto Protocol. I'm very early days.
The Callisto Protocol, also known as the Dead Space remake that is arriving 1 month before the Dead Space remake.
Yeah, the spiritual follow-on to Dead Space.
Spiritual successor.
Completely different
IP. It's there are a lot of crazy similarities though, right?
Yeah. It feels very Dead Space in the early doors. And I've had a passing glance at some of the early reviews as well. And I'm going to draw a little bit of issue with the reviews because I've seen the write-ups I've seen so far say it's an incredibly crafted and nicely made game, beautiful setting, a great example. And it talks about it being, it's been scored down because it feels like it doesn't want to be played. It struggles against the player to play it. So I saw one person who was very frustrated because they were doing all right and then they got wiped out by a QTE that then sent them back a long way. Someone else saying that they found the combat like a little bit unforgiving and thingy wise. So I've adjusted my expectations for that going in. So I'm going through there. Tell you what, Ben, I like enjoying games, so I have put it on the lowest difficulty to go through. And I also noticed I've not resorted to this yet, but actually, I feel like a lot of the frustrations that some people could have mentioned so far could be tackled in the options menu, the accessibility menu, to try and make the game playable for people of all abilities, allows you to automatically pass the QTEs if you're so inclined. Now, you could say that you're taking things out of the game, but I say to those people, if you find incident frustrating, just live your life. Enjoy. It's a game. It's meant to be fun. Enjoy your life. Turn those things off. So I'm looking forward to playing through that because apparently, by all accounts, the story and the setting, and I've started listening to a podcast which is a prequel. Love a bit of an enhanced universe. So I'm getting into all that stuff. I'll continue to review it. And the final thing I'll say on that is, I find it hard to swallow, Ben, in this day and age when a game, if it frustrates people for feeling a little bit unfair sometimes, if that is a problem and you're marking it down, how come Elden Ring is getting all of these Game of the Year things? I found that aggressively didn't want me to play it.
Yeah.
And almost aggressively felt like it was like, I am not debating that it's a fantastic game. I'm saying that I bounced off Elden Ring because I was like, shit, I like it. I like enjoying games. What I don't like is feeling like the game is literally going, fuck you, get better at this game.
Yeah, I mean, got some bits of God of War now. Some of the additional combat bits, the optional combat bits are kicking my ass. And I'm thinking, if I'm struggling this much with God of War, my God, Elden Ring would have me on toast.
Yeah. I reckon that's why Luke's been busy with audio recording and so on, but I did worry for a moment maybe Elden Ring had just finished him off.
It's done him in.
Yeah.
You never guess what? I've been done in by Elden Ring. Oh yeah. It's to be expected,
Yeah. But yeah, lots of horror content. Slurped it up like a Kirby, mate, while I've been away these last couple of weeks.
I almost kind of feel this is the thing. I feel kind of a little bit embarrassed that I've got pretty much nothing to give, but maybe because you've got so much. That covers as much as we need to cover. The last episode was recorded for me only a few days ago, so there's been not a lot of time for me to do anything like that. not 2 weeks worth, so I didn't watch any. I've got a list of movies I want to crack on with through December, and unfortunately, the movie of the week is the only one I've seen so far. I did watch the first episode of Willow, the Disney Plus series based
Oh
on
yeah,
80s high fantasy. Feels very child friendly. Feels very like it's got a younger audience in mind. Also feels like Disney have kind of gone, we need a big fantasy property to go up against the likes of the Rings of Power on Amazon, and I guess The Witcher on Netflix. But at the moment feels a bit nicey. Although some of the villain designs are a bit scary. I think if you would have seen it, if these villains were included in the 80s movie, it'd have been nice. Always nice to see old Warwick Davis on the back in movies, which is good. And yeah, the cast are all really good. It's just only just started to get going. Only the first 2 episodes came out. Need to watch the second one as well. But I'm sure I'll persevere with it.
have you started Wednesday yet, Ben?
I haven't started Wednesday yet. No, I do want to. I've heard a lot of good things about it. My daughter wants to watch it as well, so I think hopefully when we can all sit down and watch it. I wouldn't mind giving it a go.
That'd be a nice Christmas watch.
Yeah, definitely. Because Jenna Ortega seems to have really taken to the role. Sometimes when someone new gets cast, it's always a bit like, are they going to live up to
Do you feel like with every subsequent thing we see Jenna Ortega, and it's like, you're probably going to be one of the most famous actors in the world in your day. When we're looking back on this in 20 years' time, you'll be like, fucking hell, you're in everything.
Bloody hell, she's in
hugely
everything.
Successful.
She's a scream. I think my daughter has seen some TikTok edits of her as well, because she was like, oh, the girl from Wednesday, was she in a film where she got stabbed? Because I saw a TikTok edit of her stabbed, and I was like, oh yeah, she was in the Scream movie. I said, you probably shouldn't watch that.
Until you've seen 1 to 4, sit down.
Until you see 1 to 4, for God's sake. Now watch this.
Watching 5 cream out of sequence. Come on.
Drew Barrymore. She was marketed as being the lead of this film. What's that? Dead straight away. Stabbed. Hung.
Look at her guts out. Look at her guts.
Look at her guts. Oh, look at
it. Don't close your eyes.
Her mum and dad are coming up the driveway. She might be all right. She's running away. She's gonna make it. No, she's not. Stabbed. Eat shit.
This is what happens if you don't know your horror trivia.
This is what happens if you don't know your horror trivia.
Don't know about Mrs. Voorhees. That's what you get.
That's what you get. That is what you get. And also, I always thought this. Drew Barrymore's character was wearing a lovely knitted jumper and that, wasn't she? Lovely.
You think she knew all about Mrs. Voorhees, wouldn't you?
You think she'd know. Exactly. So yeah, apart from that, I've not seen anything of note, but I'm definitely going to add Trilogy of Terror and a few of the other things you mentioned onto my list because, yeah.
Do watch Trilogy of Terror. Tell you what, Ben, I'll take your little screenshot. I'll just send you the note. You can just transport that straight into your letterbox list.
Absolutely ideal. Don't even have to listen back to this episode. And apart from that actually, one thing I did want to mention before we jump into it is that we've confirmed the December lineup for the podcast. If you follow us on social media or you got us on the old Patreon, then and I did mention this last week as well, but we do have some new merchandise options as well. So yeah, the December lineup for the podcast is this week is this podcast, this very episode you listened to. That's Near Dark. Next week we're going to be talking about Salem's Lot, which is going to have a remake, which is out next year. Sorry to just jump in there. Don't want to get anyone's hopes up then. And we're being joined by Holly Moore, who introduced herself to us at the Thought Bubble Comic Convention fairly recently. Said she's a listener and said she'd love to come on the show. And, we're accommodating in that way. And we said, come and join us very, very soon. So she's chosen the movie Salem's Lot for us to chat about.
I feel like if you've gone to the trouble of finding us at a place in real life, and not only that, but putting several hours in listening to us chat on about films and about life in general, to be honest. Then the least we can do is have you on.
The very least we can do is have you on the show, which is good. And sometimes, it's nice to talk to new people, isn't it, Andy?
It's ever so nice.
It's ever so nice.
Not that I don't enjoy talking to you, Ben, but it's always nice to inject some fresh faces in there.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got so we're doing a Christmas episode and a New Year episode. So we're doing Silent Night, Deadly Night with returning guest Johan Schipal from the Trash Tapes podcast. I think the Trash Tapes podcast are covering some Christmas content as well, and this was one of the movies that we decided to give a go. And then Bloody New Year, which if you listen to this podcast regularly, you'll remember Andy mentioning it back in the summer, because it is set in July, isn't it? Despite being called Bloody New Year,
British summertime, yeah.
Set in British summertime.
They have a lovely time at like the classic fairground that comes to your local town in Britain all the time. You've got the Dodgems there. You know, they've got the waltzers. I think there's a scene on the waltzers where, very, very true to life, some like 13-year-old girls being spun too much by the carnival attendants.
Bloody hell. Oh, it always happens, doesn't it? I think I've definitely, that's pretty much happened to me. Not as bad as that, obviously, but got pretty damn dizzy from the waltzers. You know, some of the people who work on the waltzers have got the forearm strength is beyond anything anyone else has got in doing any other profession in the world.
Yeah. You give them a little bit of shit, like, oh, that wasn't a very fast spin at all. They spin you so fast you go into an H.G. Wells time machine situation. Get off the bloody waltzers. And it's like, who's this? Society's been split into the Eloy and the Morlocks. Don't know what I'm going to do with this. Spin you twice, just red nothingness and crabs.
Or they spin you again and you end up in the remake with Guy Pearce. And can you name the other UK pop star famous face who was in that film?
Oh, don't come at me with a low ball question. I know Samantha Mumba, Ben.
I knew it. I knew you would. That is why I didn't just say Samantha Mumba out loud, because I knew you knew it.
Don't pity me.
The only film role for Samantha Mumba, was it?
I don't know. I mean, could it be that like we haven't seen the entire body of her work? Maybe we shouldn't judge her on the performance as member of the Eloy in that alone. We'll find that out later.
That's true. So yeah, that's the December lineup. And as I mentioned, we got some merchandise as well. If you follow our podcast link, we'll put it in the show notes as well. But yeah, we've got a new Gumroad store where you can all order merchandise like on demand. So there's t-shirts, what else? Stickers, postcards, art prints, a flag, a poster, a hat, 2 different types of hat. If you got,
tell you what, there's all
whatever mood you're in.
All that new merch there. Now, there are some things that will be easier for me to spot you out in public. I mean, the flag, easiest one of all. Walk around carrying that. I'll probably see if I come within, well, about a mile, I'd imagine.
Have it on your back.
T-shirts, hats, reasonably, if I get within, standard distance. If I see you wearing some Horror Hangout merch out in the streets, I will come and greet you as warmly and personally as both of our comfort with human contact will be appropriate to do. Yeah, a warm handshake, a hug.
A warm handshake, and then I'll maybe decide if it deserves a hug. If you're comfortable with a hug, I'm coming in for a hug.
Yeah. I think we'll play it by ear as we meet each other. I don't know. Everyone's got different boundaries. Maybe just a polite nod of recognition as we pass each other. Like, it's all up to you. But that's my guarantee to you.
What I'd like to happen.
I see you out there in the street with it on.
What I'd like to happen is you approach them and they know you only by voice. And then they'll see you and they'll go, all right. And you'll go, oh, yeah. Horror Hangout, yeah. And they'll just think you're...
Oh, you a fan, are you?
You're a fan, are you?
Come on, two in the same street. There is probably more odds that you'll run into me, myself.
It's true. It is true. Yeah, so apart from all of those lovely the bits of it, I'll put the link for the new merchandise in the show notes as well. It's on Gumroad, but just search Horror Hangout on Gumroad, you'll find it. We've also got some new merch on Patreon as well, so if you go and subscribe on Patreon, there's some other merchandise options on there too, because we're just feeling extra generous. And I'm definitely going to order some sort of Horror Hangout
merch admin down for the end of the year, getting all your admin sorted.
Yeah, I definitely want to own something.
I might get myself a hat, Ben, prompted by the fact that this week, the high temperature where I live, the high temperature, not the average, not the low, the high is -1 for the rest of this week.
Wow. Okay. You're going to need a hat. You're going to keep those ears on the side of your head nice and warm.
That's it. Don't get them snapped off.
Don't want to get them snapped off.
All that admin aside, we also have found the time to watch the horror movie this week.
Yeah, so watch a horror movie. The movie of the week, which is Near Dark. And that is a 1987 American neo-Western horror film written and directed by Kathryn Bigelow in her solo directorial debut, Stars Adrian Pasdar, Jenny Wright, Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and Jenette Goldstein. Vasquez herself. The plot follows a young man in a small Oklahoma town who becomes involved with a family of nomadic American vampires. So this one is, we got 6.9 on IMDb, 3.6 on Letterboxd, 83% critic score, 74% audience score. Got some choice reviews on Letterboxd. Christina says, this Bill Paxton performance will live on forever. Mainstream enthusiasm for the Western genre wouldn't have perished as fast as it did if they had more outlaw vampire hicks in them. 3 stars. Well, still quite a modest rating for that. Adam AB says, Kathryn Bigelow's vampiric Western is full of violent delights and is as propulsively energetic as it is seductive. A provocative early outing from an acclaimed director, who I believe is an Oscar winner, right? She won an Oscar for
Hurt Locker, is it?
Hurt Locker, I think, yeah. That's 4 stars from Adam AB. And then Hector Jesus, or Hector Jesus, sorry, it says, it's a shitty 80s movie, but Bill Paxton made it watchable. 3 stars. Same rating as the first person, Christina, but she had a lot nicer things to say about it. Shitty 80s movie, but Bill Paxton made it watchable.
Hector's
there we go.
Standard.
Hector's got serious high standards. So this is the first time either of us have watched this. I'd seen loads of stills from it before, and for some reason I was like, is that a film that like never officially got made or released? Because there's no way that it's got all of those Aliens alumni.
Basically all of Aliens.
Yeah, and it's like what, 1 year later as well. So
do you reckon they just got together and went, should we go and do a vampire movie together?
But what's kind of strange is that like despite all those names attached, like there's 2 other actors who are kind of like the lead characters, Caleb and May. Adrian Pasdar, who I recognize. Did you recognize him?
No. What else is he from?
He's in Billy Heroes, isn't he? He's Nathan Petrelli.
Oh, is he the brother?
He's the brother.
The one that's a senator? Yeah. Or the other one? Oh, now you say that.
Yeah. So yeah, for a while I was trying to recognize him. I mean, in the background of your background of your thing at the moment, he looks a bit like a weird waxwork man.
He does a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, but it's just loads of stills.
He's having a frightening time, wasn't
he? He's coming to terms with a lot. So yeah, this is a couple of things about this as well. Like it's got a soundtrack by Tangerine Dream as well, which has got that sort of like ethereal, otherworldly nature to it. Whenever there's a Tangerine Dream soundtrack, I mean, the big one for me was always Legend, the movie Legend with Tommy Cruise,
Tim Curry.
Tom Cruise and Tim Curry, Tom and Tim. So it's got that sort of, and it is a very stylish sort of film, isn't it? It's a very stylish neo-western, and I think it could have easily existed without the vampire sort of subtext to it.
It could have just been some outlaws, I guess. Yeah, like hard for the sheer reason that he had to hang around with them, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm sure they could have made it work. But the vampire thing felt a little bit like a footnote on what was an interesting sort of story.
Kind of incidental, right?
Yeah, and it seemed to include a lot of things. Like, I know this was, well, I was going to say it's before Interview with the Vampire, but obviously wasn't before the book Interview with the Vampire. Well, I don't know when that was published. But having like a kid who's a vampire and who's like an old soul in a little kid's body, it's kind of like, I feel like we've seen that done a lot better both before and after. And yeah, Bill Paxton, I think everybody, all the Aliens alumni are great. I just think the 2 lead performances, Adrian Pasdar and Jenny Wright, I don't know if I ever really bought into it as like, because it was trying to be a love story, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, I guess like, and their relationship is based on. Don't get me wrong, Ben. They're very nice car journey together.
It's one of those, isn't it? It's one of those where they just meet and. Yeah,
we're in love now. We've had quite a moment together. So
we've had one scene where she was like, "Drive, because I'm gonna die," and he went, "Not unless you kiss me first." And she's gone, "I'm sold by that."
Right, you're vampire now. Have it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll come to it, but it's very difficult, I guess, to outperform some of the strength of the character actors you have in the rest of this. You know, you got Lance Henriksen as Vampire Bishop. You've got Vasquez. You've got
Vasquez.
Bill
Vasquez.
Paxton.
Vasquez's character is Diamondback. Her name is. Do you just get a cool nickname? Lance Henriksen is Jesse Hooker. Bill Paxton is Severin.
and then Homer.
And then the kid is called Homer, Joshua Miller. Homer. It's a bit embarrassing, really, isn't it? I'm like, a little smoking kid as well, though.
Yeah, he's punching darts at the best of them. He's that bloody vampire, mate.
Remember that story about like some kid in like, I don't know, maybe some South American country, some little kid who was just absolutely punching darts all day long.
Yeah, probably is about 50. Stop growing.
Yeah, his growth's been stunted.
Ever such weathered skin. When he burns up later on, it's just the effect of the
cigarettes. 20 fags a day.
Just the durries got him.
Just the durries. I do always have to mention it, but fags is cigarettes for people in the UK, just in case you think me and Andy have just gone rogue.
Yeah, don't want to be intercontinentally cancelled. I try not to say it to avoid such confusion, but yeah.
And I just have to clear it up every time, clearly. But yeah, it's a stylish film. I don't think it does anything, you know, is too groundbreaking. I think you can see with Kathryn Bigelow's direction, you can see that like it is a very cinematic film. The vibes are all there. There's
a couple of moments as well where it's like, oh, I see what you're going for. I see what you're going for there. We'll come to them as we go through. But like let's say I think for me there was a few moments. You do get the scene in the bar where we have some action.
That scene reminded me of Natural Born Killers. Again, okay. This came before that, but it gave me Natural Born Killers vibes, really, where I was just like, okay, this is
there's some action scenes that there are some bits where I feel like there's such a good aesthetic and there's such a good technique and there's a great solid story behind this, and I love like the choice review said, the whole Western because this is like the opposite of 30 Days of Night. You've got a big open exposed place where when the sun's out it's going to be hot, like the Kansas, like the plains and so on that they're on. Like it's a hostile environment for these vampires.
Yeah, get yourself somewhere else, vampires. I always feel that, you know when vampires are always like, I think one of the characters says it in this, I think it might be May, I'm going to live for 1 billion years, she says. I'm going to live for 1 billion years. I just think, yeah, you might be immortal to a degree, but like as a human being who's going to live, what's the expected age? Like 70 to 80. I'm going to live for 78 years, but I guarantee you I'm not going to almost nearly die at the start of every day. There's not going to be a moment where I go, oh shit, I'm going to die.
Can you imagine that? Bloody hell, the sun's going down. Get in. And also, when the vampires go to bed, they seem ever so tired. Let's spark out. Guess what? Me as a human,
yeah.
When the sun's down, I can stay up if I want.
Yeah, exactly. It's just embarrassing, isn't it? Like little babies. Little babies like, said they want milk.
Even if I'm fast asleep at night time, something happens. I can start to function reasonably well. Like I've set an alarm, I've got a flight to catch or something. Get up and do it. Whereas these guys, like the police are banging on the door, they're like, oh.
You know what'll happen, won't you? Will Smith will turn up, and he'll I Am Legend the shit out of them all. He'll just go, what's that? Oh, sorry, wake up, wakey, drag them all out.
Pulling the curtains down.
Or John Carpenter's Vampires with old James Woods, who is cancelled. Or kick in the door and just fuck you up. Don't live in the I think that's the rule. Don't live in the bloody desert. I mean,
no shade anywhere. I tell you what, and we'll come to that in a little bit. But this film, more than any, has made me think. You know, sometimes you've talked about Anne Rice's stories, Interview with the Vampire, and so on. Very romanticized look at what vampires' lives are like.
Yeah.
Tell you what, this film really hit home for me, Ben. A really important message. So much bloody admin being a vampire. Live forever just in a constant cycle of bullshit stuff you got to do every day. well, we can't go out. We can't go out till it's dark, and then we have to. If there's even the inkling that someone's seen us, we've got to steal a new car, burn up the old one,
Yeah.
put gaff tape all over the windows of this other. Where's the exhibit? Go and turn him into a vampire so he can sort your cars out for you.
You're right.
Yeah,
Keep some
he's
black
like,
spray paint on you just in case you got to do the
yeah,
windows yourself at the last moment.
nip to B&Q to get all that stuff in, get the hobbycraft, and then also you've got to go and get some blood every day. So you've got to spend all your time constantly on the
It's just
lookout.
exhausting,
Again,
isn't it?
being a human, I will I'll give it to you, vampires. You will live for longer than I will, but you know what I have to do when I want to eat the slightest something, and also that I've got like quite a big there's as a human there's quite a large margin for me between haven't had any food for a bit and just fucking dying instantly.
Yeah.
It seems in this film more than other. Like when a vampire gets hungry, they're like, oh, like
Oh shit, I'm starving.
when I would sort of think, oh, blooming up, tell you what, it's been a big day. I've not eaten anything. Eat a bloody scabby horse at this point. I'm even when I'm saying that and I'm dead hungry after a big long day. I'm probably 24, like probably like a longer period of time away from actually
Yeah.
being cripplingly ill at death's door. But it feels
Yeah.
like these guys, they've obviously it's more like being like diabetic. Yes, they're on this
Just
ongoing
agony,
quest. But
innit?
if their levels drop too low, seriously ill.
You can't
Get
have a
right
lovely
poorly.
you can't have a lovely candy bar because that tastes like shit, you know?
Although, I mean, we might as well use this as a segue to begin the thing. At the beginning, our first character, showing a bloody Mr. Whippy.
Now was she? Well, yeah, she's a vampire as well.
Yeah.
Maybe like whipped up creamy
Did
ice cream
she
is all right.
did she use or unless that was purely a ploy
Oh
to
yeah,
attract someone?
she
I
was
tell you
like
what,
she's going like that, and then just like spitting it into her little top pocket like there.
little denim pocket there. Um, but you think, she's an attractive young vampire lady in a double denim's out and about in the at the truck stop with all these lads who are dead impressed that she's there. Do you
Yeah, they
reckon
can't
she's gone
believe
the
it.
extra steps? I know what'll hook this guy in. Nothing to do with my appearance and me hanging around at this truck stop. It'll
On an
be,
ice cream.
oh, I need an accessory to this. Get us an ice cream.
Get
Although
us an ice cream.
that does kind of raise the question that in that truck stop frequented entirely by sort of ranch hands and so on, is an ice cream van pulling up there, or is that something that's available from in the store?
Do you know what I reckon it is? I reckon this is a crossover with Killer Clowns from Outer Space because you got an ice cream van at all hours of the night going to
Comes out all the time,
parks.
yeah, pulling up
It's
there.
I reckon it's those guys. This is pre Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and this is when, yeah, if you want an ice cream
This is when
at
they
any hours
begin
of
their
the day,
business.
you can have it. Yeah, you can have it if you want.
So she's out there with an ice cream, and our character he's pulled up. What's our main fella's name? Somebody just called him
So the main guy is
Casey. Caleb.
Caleb Colton. So he's like a young man in a small town. He's like a farmhand cowboy dude. Can you say that? That kind of
Yeah,
guy.
he's a ranch hand, isn't he? So Caleb spots her and he thinks, right, cool, look at that over there. But he Mr. Whippy, we'll ask for a bite of that. And he goes over and he goes, oh, gives a bite. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm not a vampire. Oh, you mean my ice cream? Sorry. Um, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I guess. And then before you know it, it's a different time, Ben. She's straight in a car with a stranger.
Yeah, and then she even says like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, you'll find out." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is odd. If this was portrayed in any other way, where you didn't assume she was a vampire, you'd be worried. You'd be worried about where this movie was going."
But
You shouldn't
actually, despite the fact, big predator energy aside, turns out that it's all right because he's
when you say
actually just taken a.
you mean sexual predator, not big aliens versus predator energy.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, she's the predator in a bit, but not the aliens versus type,
Yeah, got
the
you.
vampire apex predator type of thing.
Yeah,
So he actually takes her to see his horse, but his horse doesn't like her at all. takes one look at her, and it's like, nope, off he goes.
Takes one look at her and says, "Absolutely not for me. See you later." Doesn't kick her in the face. Just legs it.
Just chips off.
And see, this is another thing, right? I reckon if you're a vampire, you've been a vampire for a long time, you wouldn't need to ask someone what the time is. You would know at all times what the time is, exactly how many hours you've got until you could possibly die. I reckon you would have come accustomed to the night air, how it tastes, how it smells, how it feels on your skin. So you'd know exactly what time it was at any sense. You'd never go, "Oh, bloody hell, sun's coming up. Didn't realize that." Oh no.
See what, Ben, even if you hadn't built up those essential time sensing like instincts, this film is set in the era where watches are commonplace.
Yeah, just get a bloody watch. I insist on the watch. If I was the head vampire in a little ragtag gang of vampire hoodlums,
synchronize them. You'd be like, right,
I'd go,
meet you back at 6.
Everybody watches. I think of everyone, Bill Paxton would be the one who needs to worry about it. I have no idea how he's managed to stay a vampire as long as he has, because he's a rogue.
He's a loose unit, isn't he?
He's a loose unit. I reckon he'd fall asleep outside and then wake up burnt to a cinder.
he's taught us on the hair, wouldn't he? Go, "Oh, a lovely big load of blood I've had. Just have a sleep out here in the middle of the desert." Right.
A big load of blood I've had. May of everyone, I think she would be the one with her head screwed on, at least, because she seems to be like, she's a vampire. She understands the way of life, but she's kind of a little bit of an outsider within her own group, isn't she? Where she's like not your run of the mill.
She's like the daughter in the Munsters, isn't she? Where just a normal person.
Just a normal person. And yeah, she goes, "What's the bloody time?" And Caleb speaks in bloody codes. He's like,
"So you got ages.
You got ages until dawn. You got ages until dawn." Yeah, but what is the time? Because I want to know. Because we've been having a lovely chat, and I've kind of forgotten what the time is, and time's run away with itself. What is the time? And he's like, "Oh, I'll get you home, shall I?" Yeah, and he does. Well, she's clearly panicking.
But he's gone, "Oh, you've got loads of time." And then immediately the sun is coming up.
Yeah, it's like, "Don't worry, we've got loads of time." I thought, "Oh, he's got bloody hours." And then they're like rushing to try and get her home. And I'd just be like, in fact, instead of trying to get me home, just get me somewhere, anywhere nearby where I can hide from the sun, please. Put a sack on my head.
Yeah. So do you want to go out to yours? We'll go inside for a bit. We'll stay in all day if you want. Yeah. You've got a box set we can whack on. But no. Yeah. She goes, "I'll get us home." And then you're right. He goes, "Oh, gives a kiss thing," because they're in love now, Ben. I don't know if you've heard this, but
he says, give us a kiss. She's clearly distressed, and she's like, "Get me home as quick as you can." And he stops the car, turns off the engine, and says, "Well, I will if you give me a kiss." Like, no, I'm clearly distressed. Get me home. Oh no, I think I deserve a kiss. Jesus.
And then she gives him this is the most rapid vampire turning I've ever seen. I think she just seems to give him a little pinch on the neck, just like,
"Oh yeah, you don't need much in this universe. Just a little
tiny bit of vampire juice in you. Literally just a little snip." And then she bails out the car, and he gets out of the car. He's like, "What's up with that? I got a butt." And before you know it, his
hey, sister, did somebody give me a hickey?
Yeah, he's literally gone, "Oh, tell you what, weird night, eh?" And then before you know it, it cuts to the family farm. Caleb's dad.
Yes. So why is he not driving his car anymore, Caleb? Just because he's been bit and he's feeling a bit poorly.
Ever so confused, he feels a bit poorly.
Yeah.
And while feeling poorly, his sister basically looks over the field, and he's just running through the open prairie, smoking. And I don't mean punching darts. I mean he's practically on fire from the sun.
And she's like, "What's wrong with him?" But I'd be like, "He's tanked up. He's had a skinful. He's had a skinful, and he's stumbling home, embarrassing. If anything, I'd be mad at him. I'd be like, "Oh, Caleb, you had a beast. We've been out here tending the farm since first thing this morning. You're just getting home."
But he's running straight across the field, stomping on me bloody taters. His dad would be livid.
This is kind of
mash
weird
them now, Caleb. That's after the cook.
Don't mash them now, mash them later. This is weird because it gets to a point where we don't see the point of view of his dad and his sister. We just see it happen, and we don't see them like going, "What's happening? Oh my god!" So yeah, an RV like turns up and scoops him up like a little baby into the RV, and drives away. And that's it's weird because we don't see the sort of the dad and the sister kind of reacting to that.
Yeah, and this is this weird thing because he's in this RV, all the taped up windows. The girl he's in love with now, who's just had a little kiss with, and all these fellas, after killing him right away. Is this a bit where they introduce themselves when they get back to the base? But Bill Paxton's on for blowing him away right away, right? It's like
I feel like whoever Bill Paxton would meet, he'd automatically want to fuck him up for some reason.
He uses the threat of tap dancing. He's having a tap dance on your face, mate.
Oh, don't do that, Michael Flatley. Give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that would hurt. Someone tap dancing on your face.
It would hurt, definitely. But I don't know what's their end goal here, because are they just hunting down someone because they don't realize that he's been bitten at this point? They kind of just think he's a victim that May's let go, and they're kind of wanting to finish him off. But then May says, "No, if you're going to kill him, you have to go through me."
Yeah, because I've turned him. And then it's like it's like, well, she goes back, and it's like she's requesting a new pet. It's like, come on, you taught me how to be a vampire. I'll teach him. Give me a...
I mean, again, that's a bit Interview with a Vampire as well, isn't it? Where there's like the sort of pet-like scenario that some vampires have with other vampires, especially the ones that they've turned. They kind of, And Homer, the little kid vampire, has clearly got that kind of relationship with May as well, where he's like, I taught you everything you know
about being a vampire. Me, Homer.
And when I introduce my name to this brand new vampire, I'm gonna grab his nuts and tell him that if he doesn't pronounce my name correctly, that he's gonna be sorry. How many other ways can you pronounce Homer? Homer.
Yeah, don't say my name like it's a French name.
Homer. Yeah, he's fuming. Yeah. He's got anger issues.
So they say basically keep as a pet. Old Jesse Hooker.
Oh, Jesse Hooker.
Jesse Hooker, Lance Henriksen, when he's not drugging people in Hellworld and burying them alive, he is as a vampire in this juncture, and he's saying, "Tell you what, put you on a trial period." Basically says,
I think that's what you do. You get a trial period, definitely. That's only fair.
Put you on a trial period. I'll see if you can be a vampire like us. If you pass your tutelage, do all your vampire lessons, then you're
Lance Henriksen got the most iconic rat tail of in all of cinema. I didn't notice it for ages. Didn't notice it until like
in the hotel later on.
Yeah. And then I was like, hang on a minute, has he had that whole film? Impressive. Yeah. I wonder if it was real or not. I'd like to think it was real.
Yeah, I'd like to hope it's real.
Yeah,
it's impressive. It's either that, it's impressive wig work. But he goes, all right, tell you what, trial period. See if you're any good at being a vampire. If you are, that's all right. If not, then I'll kill you.
Oh, great! Oh, yeah.
So he's up against it, isn't he, old Caleb?
He is. And he doesn't quite believe what's happening, does he? I think he says, "Slap me and wake me up." And even like a little bit later, when it's just him and May, he's kind of like, "All right, whatever is going on here, I need to just leave because I need to get home. I got a family." I don't think he ever sort of thinks that he actually is a vampire. He just thinks that this lot are wrong-uns.
He just thinks they're wrong-uns, and the first thing they do says, "Right, the first thing you've got to do to establish yourself in vampire society is to burn up an RV."
Yeah, we've got to burn up an RV first. So basically, people have seen us steal you. I think that's pretty much what they say, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got to burn it up. Bill Paxton goes to like a car lot and steals a little motor.
A motor that's ill-equipped to carry all these people in it.
Yeah, a big downgrade, isn't it? It's just like...
steals like a family, like an estate car, like a Volvo.
Yeah. You'd be like, Bill Paxton can't do anything, you can't. So yeah, you've kind of got Lance Henriksen's like the leader. Bill Paxton's like the rogue, the nut job, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him.
Diamondback is like
Diamondback.
She's like
yeah.
So they're like the mum and the dad.
They're like the mum and dad, but she's like strong, silent type essentially. Like she's not like Vasquez in any way, really. She's kind of just there to back up Lance Henriksen, and she's good with a knife. She likes throwing a knife. She's got a lovely bleach blonde hairdo, very 80s. And then Homer, the little kid one, he's annoys me.
But isn't he like one of the oldest ones?
Yeah, I think he is.
They call him like an old man, but he's like Kirsten Dunst.
We all know someone who's like that, right? I like to call him a nan kid. Usually a kid who was raised by possibly their grandparents, obviously in those scenarios. I'm not making fun of anyone for that. There are lots of different family dynamics and family setups. However, you can spot a nan kid from a mile off. All right?
I love it. Like, not making fun of her on those setups, but they are called nan kids.
I'm not making fun of that, but they are called nan kids. There's a Russell Brand bit where he goes, "Oh, should we put a drop of sherry in it, shall we? Rude not to, eh, Nan?" Yeah, that's right. What's on TV tonight? Yeah, that sort of nan kid. He's a nan kid because he's an old fella in a body. He loves a bit of poker. He loves punching darts. I always think that when kids smoke in films, I always feel like, oh, it's interesting.
It's probably quite a bad environment you're exposing those young actors to.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been a vampire for hundreds of years, okay, and I'm playing poker and murdering kids, and yeah. Later on he kind of wants to keep Caleb's sister as like a pet almost.
I know, that's like I was like, oh, is Homer a bit of a nonce? I don't know, because technically he's a little boy, but he is also an old fella.
He's a bit of both, so I reckon at least half nonce.
Yeah, I reckon
at least.
So that's the gang really, and you forgot the other thing that Homer likes doing. They kind of explain themselves. I love this little like intro sequence. It's like, hey, I'm Jesse Hooker, the guy with the full name. Yeah. And I do this. Just, yeah, Diamondback here. May says, and May we've already met, obviously. Bill Paxton does a big. This is big. Bill Paxton is. Every reaction here is at 11, right? He's like, yeah, I'm your worst nightmare. My name's Severin. And I'll fuck you up, and yeah,
I'll fuck you up and spit out your corpse, and I'm just
don't mess with me. I'm a hard man. And then Homer just comes in and goes, oh no, Bill Paxton's probably taken this as far as we can go. I can't escalate from that, so he just grabs him by the balls while he says, "My name's Homer."
My name's Homer, and if you mispronounce my name, I'll mug you off, and let go of my nuts, then you freak. Just don't care, does he?
Ironically, the guy who plays Homer, he's also, you couldn't write it, Ben. He's in another 1990s horror film called The Willies.
You couldn't write it. You couldn't bloody write it, mate. But I'll tell you what, he's in a film called The Willies. The Willies?
Wonder how he got that one. Says, right, we're gonna need someone to star in this another kind of horror film we've got going. Someone who is comfortable handling willies, and he's like, check out my show reel. 3 years ago,
it was me grabbing some balls.
3 years ago, I was with.
Hang on a minute. This is madness. Kathryn Bigelow. This is madness. This is utter madness. He was also in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, playing Willie Chalice. There's Chalice? No way.
That's what he calls his hand.
There's no.
Yeah, I'll pop it in the Willie Chalice.
Pop it in the Willie Chalice. It's like a Indiana Jones Last Crusade scenario where you got to find the best chalice for your Willie, and just turns out it's the little clay one. Don't worry about the big.
There's one more chance, when like he's also in something else called Class of 1999. Let's see.
Is this a movie, or are you looking at the right person? Oh no, I can see it. Oh my god, I've got a better one. He's also in Rhythm Nation 1814 as BJ.
It's okay. He breaks the trend in Class of 1999. He's called Angel or Angle.
Okay, Angle.
Yeah. It's called Angel.
Wow. And finally
broke out of typecasting.
And finally, his last role, 2007, Wizard of Gore. He was in his last film role. He played a character called Jinky.
Yeah, I tell you what, one letter away.
One letter away from Winky. Oh, and looking at him now, he looks utterly mad. He's kind of gone through loads of phases where he looked like a kid, then he looked like Robert Smith from The Cure, and then he looks like just a bald guy with a beard, as everyone makes the final transition into eventually.
Yeah, that's his final form.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's met them all, and his week trial period begins. Then Bill Paxton downgrades their car. They rob a car, burn up their old one, and they are on the road.
Yeah.
May explains that we're going to live forever. But there is a shit ton of admin to have to do because you're going to have to kill. And he's like, kill? And she says, yeah, you're going to have to kill. You have to do the killingest killing you've ever done. But don't think of it like killing. It's just you just gotta do it, and then we kind of get like a little montage of them all going to do some different killing. So Severin dances about with a gun in the street and then chats up some women who bloke jigging about, throwing a gun about in the street. Should we pull up? And
he's
like
he's dressed as a proper cowboy as well at this point. He's got the shirt, the spurs, yeah, and they're loving it. He's like,
hey, do you want to come to? And imagine he eats them up for it. For we don't see necessarily him eating them up, do we? But he's like, do you want to do that? And meanwhile, Jesse Hooker and Diamondback, they kind of allow themselves to be pseudo carjacked. They just probably hang around in a bad neighborhood until a couple of toughs, a Green Goblin looking motherfucker, and then a guy with the Joker's gun from the end of Batman 1989. Like a big Magnum comes up, and he's like, "Tell you what, you're busted, mate." And he's there like, dropping it down Diamondback's cleavage. Do we see them get got?
No, we don't. It was weird because I was a bit like, if I missed something, but no.
So basically, they're putting themselves in these situations. They're out going hunting. They're kind of catching people that they're gonna eat. And May and Caleb get in a very nice man's trial. He does drink drive. They get picked up by a trucker. Have a couple of beers with him. Have a couple of beers with him, and then do you reckon it's because he hasn't had any blood, hasn't he? That's why he's feeling poorly.
Yeah.
Caleb gets out to have a vom by the side of the road. And the trucker's coming out. So Smiley, you're really sick. And then May gets him.
She slurps him off.
But yeah, she slurps up and gets him. But then I guess, is it like the vampires? They can't eat non-fresh blood. They can't eat blood they didn't kill. So then she gives Caleb a bit of her blood.
Yeah, have a bit of this blood.
Didn't notice about directorial strength here. We can see the oil derricks pumping as they're sucking blood. Is he sucking blood from her? That's that we see the oil derricks sucking blood. Who's the real vampires in this situation?
Who's the real vampire?
But he is slapping away all the oil from the earth.
It's a There Will Be Blood crossover, and Caleb is like, he's loving it at this point. He's like, he's got a big grin on his face. She says, "You could die if you drink too much," and he's like, "I really love it though. It's very lovely."
He could. Or I thought that she was saying that she died.
Oh, she could. Okay,
slurp her dry like a Capri Sun.
He don't care, does he?
He's like, "Oh, it's ever so nice though."
Slurp her dry like a Leonardo DiCaprio son.
Yeah. So she's like, "Oh, don't." But then they get back, and all the vampires are furious. Well, no, he pieces out at this point, doesn't he? He's like, "Nah, this isn't the life for me."
Yeah, I can't remember if this is before, or it might have been before he actually got in the slurping.
Oh yeah, because they do this several times in this film. The vampires droopy dog people in the sense where he goes through what is largely a completely unnecessary scene where he says, "Actually, I'm not into burning up RVs and getting worse cars. I'm going to take the bus home to my family." He doesn't have quite enough for a bus ticket. A man looks him in the eyes and says, "Get yourself home," and gives him money for the bus.
Yeah.
He gets on the bus and gets home, like falls out of the thing, and they've droopy dogged him because they're already like their car is at the place that he's gone to, and they've gone, "No, you can't do that." And I was like, "Well, thanks for that." was a film running short?
Yeah. What a waste. What a waste of $14. So yeah, that is, I think after that, there's obviously the scene with all of them killing and various things, and then there's a big scene where they enter this bar, and yeah, it's very reminiscent of Natural Born Killers, where they kind of just walk in and terrorize everybody who's there. It's obviously late night. Bill Paxton just goes to the bar and just like starts causing loads of jip for one guy. Just knocks his drink over, buys him a new drink, then tells him to pay for it. Then like gets Caleb to kind of like take the punch that he tries to swing at him, and says, "I'm trying to show you something." Then Caleb hits him. Did you know this scene? I wonder how they did this. He flies back into and like hits the pool table, but then automatically flies up and hits the
biffs his head on the light.
Yeah, but like in one fell swoop. So it's almost like I'm like, Jesus. And he goes, Did I do that? I
feel like it's 1987, so the solution to that from a film standpoint is they just hurt that man.
yeah. No, yeah, do you see that? No, what I wanted to do, I wanted to hit the pool table and then immediately hit his head on that as well. So like double.
Bang your head. He pops around like he gets punched by Vampire Caleb. He pops around like he's taking a stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin himself.
He does. He sells it.
He's popping around.
He seriously sells it. And that's when we go, oh, is he a bloody vampire or something? Must be.
I tell you what, I'm ever so strong now. I can punch a guy clear across this bar. And then this is when the murders just escalate because the barkeeper's like, hey, you can you can walk out or you can go out on your back, and then before you know it,
I could never say that with a straight face. Can you imagine saying that with a straight face? Listen, you can walk out or you can go out with your legs wrapped around your head and you can go out on your anus.
Screw you into a ball and push through the letterbox. It all starts kicking off now because before you know it escalates quickly from a little bit of a bar fight and Caleb thumps a guy into a pool table to the next thing. The waitress comes over to the table. Well, Jesse Hooker, Lance Henriksen, says, "Tell you what, we'll just need a glass actually." Oh, that seems weird. He's like, "Yeah, cut your throat, bleed you into that thing." And everyone else at the bar, you would think you would lose your mind if that happened. A waitress at the bar that it's clearly a local bar because like pretty much the piano stops when people walk in there, so it's obviously a local bar for local people.
Well, no, because they just walk in and they go, "Hey, look who's here!" That's just such stupid shit like that. Like Bill, you couldn't take Bill Paxton anywhere. You couldn't take Bill Paxton for a quiet drink anywhere. A little country pub. He'd walk in and there'd be like a little old couple sat in the corner. He'd walk up to them, he'd clunk their heads together.
Just an absolute nightmare. Especially anywhere with street safe, where you get barred from one place, you get barred from the lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bill Paxton, absolute nightmare. Is like if you don't think you've got a Bill Paxton in your group of mates, it's bloody you. All right,
it's you. Yeah. Well, we've all known someone like that. Like we've all known someone who, when someone walks into a bar, you go, "Don't say anything. Don't say anything." What?
Please, I actually like this place. I want to be able to come in.
I actually like this place. Yeah. Please don't say anything. Just that thing you're thinking about saying. Don't say it. And then someone smashes a glass and they go, "Whoa!
Taxi!" Yeah.
Oh,
Bill Paxton is your worst mate. So yeah, before you know it, old Jesse Hooker has slit the waitress's throat, and he's, to be fair, he's not completely uncivil. He is bleeding her into a glass so they can have a lovely glass of claret.
You don't even seem that bothered. He kind of just gives it to the others, like. But yeah, it's Diamondback who slices her throat, isn't it? Yeah, but everyone is kind of reacting to it as if to say,
"Yeah, they don't."
This is weird.
You'd lose your mind, and people would be like going for the police, trying to get out. But they just sort of stand there awkwardly while Jesse Hooker, he's a 2-name character every single time.
Oh yeah,
he gets up and locks the door, and then they go through the motions of killing several other people. Caleb gets shot with a shotgun, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm not poorly at all from that, actually."
yeah, I'm not poorly at all. I thought, if anything, getting shot point blank by a shotgun would have made me poorly, but you know what? No.
I actually feel all right for that. So Bill Paxton sorts the barkeeper out, like wipes him across like a bar rag, like is taking him out. May, in preparation for
This is kind of
Caleb
like
to get a kill, as a little.
this is kind of like erotic with the guy
She's a
because
nice
even
vampire.
like
She's like, come on, a little dance with us.
I'd be like, I don't fancy a dance at the best of times, let alone when I've just witnessed a couple of murders and I'm maybe thinking that I'm next. Oh, I have a little dance. I'd be all 2 left feet.
Yeah, I'd be tripping over. To be fair, his final move when he exits in a bit is good, but I think my favorite.
He does a Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 4, jump straight out the window,
yeah,
forward roll.
It's all right now. Like this was the era of single panes. Imagine this in a post double glazing world.
That's why they call it window pane.
Yeah,
Eminem
out the window. Named after a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a man was cast through a piece of glass. They didn't. They used to just call those glass doors. Now windows. Named after the person they first killed.
I want a bloody purple lightsaber. Sorry, they don't exist in Star Wars lore. I fucking want one.
Oh, all right.
Sorry, Mr. L. Jackson. You can have my
right.
But you are going out a window.
Check you out of a window later on.
You're going out a window.
But before he maces it, she's having a dance with them. But my favorite death, classic vampire techniques here. You'll see the different techniques that vampires will have. There are some vampires that will do a throat slit and drink someone dry. There are some vampires that will use their classic vampire powers, like, a little bit of mind control, a little bit of turning into a mist or a bat. Homer's vampire power is he's got a gun. And Diamondback, like the guy that's been punched into a pool table, he kind of gets up and he's like,
days are confused.
The stars are clearing, and then Diamondback goes, "Yeah, there's a fly on the ceiling." And he goes, "Is there? I better check this. And I thought he was raising his head, and she was then going to use the fact that his neck was exposed to chop his throat as well. But actually, instead of zigging, they zag, and what happens is while he looks up at the ceiling, Homer shoots him in the back.
Classic move. Classic. I feel like it's a classic Homer move. He's been around for so long that he's just fed up with all the games. He's just like, I'm just going to shoot someone.
I'm just going to shoot someone several times in the back, and then that's my kill of the day. But May, she's got the guy dancing. She goes, actually, this one's for you. Obviously, it is important to sign off your probation that we've got to observe.
Yeah,
this will give you a bit of feedback, but you do have to kill one.
You have to murder this guy. Yeah.
So he knows that's over, and he finishes the dance by macing it. He dives out that window and just legs it out. He goes after him, but he lets him go.
Yeah, he lets him go. There's still a bit of human left in him, where he's the blood first isn't taken over completely, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to let you go, and everyone's fuming. Everyone's utterly fuming, except
they're livid. They pull him into the car straight away. They must have all got in the car and they've been observing him from the side.
Yeah. Let's see how he does. Let's rate him. They've all got clipboards and they're rating him out of 10 on all the categories.
They pull him in and they give him a right dressing down and said, right, I'm gonna kill you actually, because now he's gonna go straight to the police. They'll be on our tail, and it's almost morning.
And it's always almost morning. I feel like in these films, especially this one,
that bar would have closed.
Yeah, it's like it's nearly morning as well. That bar, everyone's having a quiet drink at 4 a.m. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So they
still playing pool. So they
go to stay at a motel, didn't they? Although Jesse Hooker says, "I want one of your bungalows."
Can I have one of your bungalows, please? And the old man goes, "Haven't you stayed here before?" He goes, "Oh yeah, about every 50 years or so."
Every 50 years I come by, and he goes,
"All right, no further questions."
I remember it. So yeah, they go to the motel room, but then there's a police raid in the daylight.
The old Bill, they come round. They're gonna get lifted by the police.
So it's obviously because of the guy they let live, right? He obviously went straight to the fuzz
and said,
and grassed him in.
You see, yeah, he's absolutely stitched them up. Sorry. When they're asleep, they are absolutely asleep. There's not any of them that's up just on their phone.
It's like they've guzzled like a whole bottle of Night Nurse, and they're out for the count.
Because they find it really hard to wake up. Because then when the police knock at, they're going, "But you wake up, police!" They're like, "Oh, what's going on?
Wake up, police! We're not going to knock again. We're not going to knock again. Oh bloody hell!
And they immediately lose it. They're like, oh no, it's daytime, innit? Because Bill Paxton opens the door, gets a face full of sun, his face half burnt off.
Yeah, that happens loads stuff. Well, everyone's getting half their face burnt off every 5 seconds in this film. Just like put a bit of SPF on.
Yeah, and the police outside, it feels like all the extras that were dressed as policemen, they got them to just go and like choose any gun. Choose any gun from the armory, because there's a guy with like a sniper rifle, there's a guy with a shotgun, there's a guy
with the
like...
BFG from the Doom games.
Yeah, there's like a big M16 guy, and they're just basically, they go, right, our plan is, do we know if they've got anyone in there? Well, apparently one of their associates is a little boy. Just blast this place into
one of their associates is a little boy, but apparently he carries a gun, so he's definitely, that's how it works. That's how it works in the old US of A. What's that? What's that? 6 months old, but they reaching for a gun. Blow him away!
So the police just immediately start just blasting shit out of the building, and of course, secondary to the bullets coming in, which come ever so sharp, even if you're a vampire sometimes, but not other times when it's convenient. They're blasting holes in it. Of course, it comes in through those holes. Pesky sunlight.
Pesky old sunlight. Yeah, that's not fair, is it?
So they're all being blasted away. They seem like they're done for at this point, but Caleb, ever the quick thinker, puts on the impenetrable sun blanket.
Yeah, it's a very thick, chunky knit.
High denier factor. And he runs across, being shot quite severely, but gets into the car, smashes it into a wall. Thankfully, not in such a way that it lets all the sun in. They get in the car and they escape, and they've kind of let him off for being.
They've gone. You might have mugged us off, but at the same time, you got us out of that sticky situation. So in a way, you're all right. Hey, this guy's all right.
Although, what's the name? Old Jesse Hooker does say, oh, "Let's bought you some time," but
Oh yeah, it's bought you some time.
If there's one thing Jesse Hooker is, it's a stickler for the rules, and he's like, "Well, I am gonna have to go through your assessment at some point."
So there's like a little bit of a camaraderie. This is when like Caleb asks Jesse how old he is, and he says, "I fought for the South," which is like the American Civil War. So that was like over 100 years ago. But yeah, they're trying to work out maybe he's about 150 years old. Severin had earlier suggested that he and Jesse started the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. So like maybe they were knocking about. They love starting a fire, you know what I mean? Burning RVs, the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. That was a laugh.
And he's like, someone knows this coach, this little horse and cart that I've already got. I better burn it up.
Yeah, someone's seen me before in this horse and cart. I'm gonna burn this horse and this cart. Yeah, and then there's like, this is kind of weird because the other plot that's going on is that Caleb's dad and his sister are looking for Jesse's group, but we don't really see much of them. We kind of see him talking to the police, then we see him saying he's going to take matters into his own hands, and then he just finds them. He just turns up when they're at like a different hotel.
Just finds them, but they've gone to a hotel, and Homer, this is when he meets Jesse's sister, just getting a tin of Coke at the
getting a tin of Coke at the old vending machine, as you would.
It's just a stout can of Coke as well, not these fancy lady tinnies that we have nowadays.
Didn't notice this, but
big fat roundy, proper little chode of a Coke can.
Little chode of a Coke can.
Yeah, she's getting a big massive Coke, and then completely not in keeping with the rest of the character, Homer, obviously, as far as the sister's concerned, the little boy goes, "All right, what are you doing?" She goes, "I do what I want."
Did she say my name's Homer as well?
He goes, "Yeah, my name's Homer." She says, "Oh, my name's Caleb's sister, and I do what I want." Do what I want when I want. And he goes,
do I want when I want. I don't give a fuck what you say or do, even if you have got a gun on you, you bastard.
And he goes, do you want to come and watch a bit of telly? She goes, don't mind if I do, actually. That sounds...
What's on? What's on at this time of night?
Sounds lovely. He goes, anything you want. So she goes back to the hotel room, and seeing what's going on, like Diamondback goes, "Oh, what room are you in, sweetheart? I better tell your dad that you're here." Thinking, giving old Jesse Hooker looks, "Oh, going."
I mean, that would be weird if you're anywhere with your daughter and she said, "I'm just going into this hotel room with a bunch of strangers." You'd be like, "Probably not."
But Diamondback's like, I'll probably just go murk the dad when I.
Yeah.
And the sister's about to leave because the TV's finished. They've played the national anthem and it's gone to static.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, no, it's the start of the Outer Limits. Look, it's going to change in a second.
Weren't they ready for bed? Oh wait, it's not morning time, is it? Sorry.
Well, that being said, like, what time did the TV used to end broadcasting? I imagine not that close to sunrise, probably like in the dead of night. But we do hear, just as Caleb and everything comes in, they have a reunion. He's like, "Oh, that's my sister there," and it kind of all comes to a head. Don't know if you noticed.
You were like, "Why are you all so dirty? Why are you all so filthy? Why ain't any of you jumped in the shower? Not even once. You're all dusty and dirty and grimy."
If you're going to live forever as a vampire, maybe you'd want to get undusty, cleaned up a little bit. Well, probably because as soon as you go in, you got to sleep like the fitful sleep of the dead.
Yeah. What were you going to say then? Sorry.
Don't know if you noticed this, but just as they were going in, because the dad's been captured by Diamondback as well, the whole family's there. There's a bit of a confrontation between Caleb, obviously no desire for his family to be killed, and he wants to be reunited with his family. Never asked to be nipped on the neck and turned into a vampire within a few minutes.
Just want to go back to my normal life as a farmhand cowboy man.
He wants to do just his normal life, back to normal. He's also in like him at the minute while he's a vampire. He'd like to be normal again, if you don't mind, but this has all come to a head. But just faintly in the background, you hear Chekhov's cockerel. You hear just as this confrontation's going on.
Chekhov's cockerel.
And I was
Hang on a minute.
Telltale sign.
Seriously puts the willies up everybody. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know what that means. It's going to be more anytime soon.
Telltale sign. Those cockerels don't lie. Luckily, that particular farmer had set his cockerel early, so it was cockadoodle doing just before dawn rather than at dawn itself.
Rather than at dawn, yeah. Some of them do that.
And Homer grabs the sister.
It's kind of annoying here because how quickly they pretty much just turn on Caleb. Like, well, say you got a family. Oh, that's it. They're all dead as well. We don't care about you. We don't no respect for you or what you want. But basically,
Homer, when he goes through, he's like, give me back my sister. She's not yours. You can't keep her. And he's like, well, actually, it was me that turned May into a vampire. I turned you into a vampire. So if I turned May into a vampire, she turned you into a vampire. So if I turn your sister into a vampire, that makes us even Stevens. And I was like,
what?
I'm not sure I follow your logic, Homer. Do you want to explain that?
So you might be old. You might be old, but your IQ is incredibly low, and no wonder you rely on a gun to kill people because you are an absolute
shit at maths.
Shit at maths. Shit at everything. Put more effort into your life.
You wouldn't know, you wouldn't know even Stevens, Homer, if it shot you in the back.
You wouldn't know even Stevens if Shia LaBeouf walked up to you and bitch slapped you in your tit. But that's right. We're going to see him burn to a cinder soon, so it's all good.
Yeah. So they get away by basically just wazzing out the door, right?
Yeah, that's it.
In a bit of kerfuffle, a bit of sunlight comes in. They open the door and everyone goes, "Oh bloody hell, son!"
Because the dad starts shooting, doesn't he? He shoots.
Oh, he does. He shoots.
He holds him at gunpoint and then like shoots Jesse right in the chest, and obviously he barely reacts.
Well, he spits the bullet out.
Regurgitates the bullet.
Love a bullet regurgitate. You don't see people do it so much anymore. That bit in the mask, but apart from that,
yeah. So Sarah opens the door, lets all the sunlight in. The vampires get forced back, and then they escape with the family. And obviously Caleb, even though while he's escaping, he is burning.
He's got the blanket though.
He's got the blanket. He's got the big,
like the most enchanted item.
It's a curtain. It's one of those blackout curtains, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a blackout curtain, which really is worth the money if you're a vampire.
Yeah. And then Caleb goes, "Do you know what? You should try and give me a blood transfusion. I reckon that might make me feel a little bit better."
I'm ever supported that because his dad is shown to do some kind of medical procedure on some of their livestock early in the film. Yeah. So as that, he is a man that knows all about all types of
medicine. Given a blood transfusion to a human man? No, but I reckon I could.
I guess the principles are the same. And he does, and it's touch and go for a minute. Caleb's ever so poorly. But he gets up in the morning, and actually, he's
Wakes up in the
great.
morning feeling fine.
Not only
Wakes
is
up in the morning. Yeah.
not only is he feeling better and not dying of vampire-related hunger anymore. Not even a vampire. Actually, he's fine again.
Yeah, and it's unexpected, isn't it? He's like, "Oh bloody hell! I'm not even a vampire. I can't believe it." I
When he
thought,
gets a
or
blood
maybe it's
transfusion,
temporary.
when he gets a blood transfusion, his dad just gave him a bit of his blood in his veins, and that's all right again. Or is it that
Yeah.
did he
It feels,
change did he change all of his blood? Like if you accidentally put diesel in a petrol car, you've got to fully drain it.
yeah.
You got to fully
I
rinse
think
it out.
it feels a bit of a cheap sort of like get out clause based on oh, we're gonna have to turn it back because there needs to be a happy ending, and a genuine a decent ending could have been like, oh, him and May can never really be together. But the fact that they kind of just like they've sort of write themselves into these corners, like whoever wrote this film, don't know if it was Kathryn Bigelow, and then just write themselves out by going blood
I think it's a
transfusion.
novel.
What was that?
Might be a novel.
Oh, really? I don't know. No idea. No idea. Um. So yeah, what happens after that? So
So it's all right, and he's having a lovely time.
back to normal.
Yeah, he's having a lovely time of it. He's out with the horses again. He's got his sister walking through the fields in broad daylight up on his shoulders when May turns up, and he goes, "I'm back with my family now. Actually, that's
And she goes, "Oh,
nice."
you're warm. You're disgusting and warm. I can feel it all over you." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm moving on. I'm moving on. The vampire life wasn't for me. Too much stress. It was way too stressful. Constantly moving from place to place. And sure, you're living forever, but you're living in a constant state of I'm gonna die as well.
Yeah.
Horrific."
Brief correction. Apparently, there is a novel called Near Dark. Nothing to do with this. It was co-written by Kathryn Bigelow. You were right, Ben.
Okay. Oh no, I didn't actually know. So
Corrected
made an
the
assumption.
record. So yeah, she goes, "Well, I'll be off then, shall I?" And May's on her way, and then you'll never guess though that evening, really Sarah's been pinched, hasn't she?
Oh yeah, this was pretty horrible, isn't it? It's like I always find that quite distressing. Like a kid getting kidnapped. Kid getting kidnapped as
Kid
you
getting
only
robbed
can.
off with.
Yeah. So they slash his tires, but Caleb gives chase with the vampires who've done the kidnapping on horseback, on his ass. And after like a brief sort of like chase sequence, he gets like thrown off.
Because horses don't like vampires.
Horses hate vampires, yeah. He gets confronted by Severin, and they have a bit of a to and fro.
Very Terminator, this bit, I thought.
I was getting Terminator vibes a few times, especially like in a bar scene early on.
Yeah, in the bar scene, but here especially where, thankfully, a truck is pulling up. Caleb runs over to it. The truck driver, not helpful at all. He goes, "Buddy, get out! I'm going to count to 3, and then you're in big trouble, mate. 3."
Oh yeah. No,
2.
he goes. No, he goes. I'm going to count to 5. He goes 1, 2, 4. So in his final moment before he gets shot in the face, he was not counting properly. B, I think he was not counting properly to make a point. So he was being a really unhelpful dickweed about it, and he gets immediately shot in the face. Instant karma, But I think
not being helpful. Be a really good Samaritan, mate. Like,
be a good Samaritan. If somebody jumps up dressed as a cowboy and says, "I need your help," and being shot at by another cowboy who's a vampire,
you can see he's just
he's
there.
Right there.
Bloke pointing in at you. Give his hand.
He's got a great shot as well, and he'll shoot you through the windscreen directly in the face.
Yeah, the refraction of light. He's accommodated for it. So he gets him, but thankfully he's not so good. His old Severin that he can stop Caleb from just running him over with the truck, and he's like going, "Oh no! Ow! Ow! Oh! Ow! Ooh.
Oh, that comes sharp."
And he climbs up, and he's got proper poorly face. His face has been sandpapered off in classic sandpaper, aka the sandy floor of the Kansas desert.
Yeah.
He crawls up. He's got half a face off, and he goes, "Tell you what, fasten your seatbelt, because I'm going to start ripping bits out of this engine." And this is very Terminator. He's like,
can you just slam the brakes on?
He's pulling all the bits out. Caleb dives out of the car. The semi trailer just basically skids across, I guess that's why it's important he rode with the truck early on, because he gave him a lesson how he had to brake the trailer and brake the
Oh
truck.
yeah, of course.
Otherwise it would explode. So what he does is
Okay.
he
I didn't make
brakes
that
in
connection.
properly, and
Two
it
brakes.
yeah, he only engage. I guess he doesn't engage any of the brakes, or he just engages the ones in the cab, and then basically it concertinas into itself and blows
Classic.
up Severin, and he's done,
Love the
right?
use. Love the use of the word concertina as a description of anything. So well done, Andy.
You got
Good
concertina's
times.
it. Concertina's him, so he's
Um,
exploded and he's gone.
Severin's dead. Um, but then Jesse and Diamondback turn up, and they pursue him. But then I think they're forced to escape in their car.
Well,
And here we're
he's
like,
after him. This is a weird section. So they confront them, and Jesse Hooker is like, "Yeah, I've got your got your sister here," and he starts sending Sarah out. May kind of go. The sister shouts, "Look out!" and he
oh yeah,
ducks just as Diamondback's about to throw a knife in the back of his
oh
head.
yeah,
Which, by
and
ducking, poor old Jesse Hooker gets hit right in the mush.
so he's already been shot like in the chest, point blank. Now he's getting a knife in the mush, and he like spits it out like bloody
Spits it
hell.
out. But I don't understand. Like, is it that Diamondback wants the sport of it because he tells them to run, or is she a little bit sympathetic? Because the line is
Yeah,
delivered
I'm
like,
not sure
"Oh, go
actually.
on," because
Get out of
I guess
it. Yeah, I'm
there's like
not
a
sure.
warmth to it. Like, it isn't like a haha run. She goes,
Yeah,
"Okay," she goes, "Okay,
get out of here. Run. Have a little run. Yeah,
so
I'm
I'm
not
not sure
sure.
whether she's actually nice or not, but I assume not because nothing else in the character suggests that she's sympathetic to these things.
No.
Um,
And, that could have
but
been interesting. They could have done something a bit different there. It felt like the characters of um Jesse, what's his name? Jesse Hooker and Diamondback were very similar, kind of just these
yeah,
cold. I know the
just the
vampires, but
vampire leaders, right?
yeah.
The the heads of this vampire pseudo
Mm.
family. Sarah gets pinched again. She's in the car, but May turns a corner and makes a decision. She basically manages to fight her way out of the car as they're coming. The sun is up once
Yeah.
again.
That's
These
when they like
night,
spray painting the windows to try and
yeah, to try and keep the
wrapped
sun
up in
out.
blankies.
Ever
Um,
tell you what, ever such short nights in this desert.
oh yeah, unbelievably short nights, ridiculous. You blink and you miss them, basically.
So the sun's coming up. They're spray painting the thing. May dives out of the car. Thankfully, Caleb is running towards them with the lovely blanket.
I think it's just his jacket that he wraps around May.
He,
He's
he
like,
wraps wraps May in that one.
yeah,
Homer gets out of the car as well and is chasing after Sarah, the younger sister, because he does seem to be really keen in having her around. He's fallen in love with her as quick as Caleb fell in love with May.
yeah, but he's fallen in love with
Um,
her, and he's like chasing after her like some sort of weird, desperate oddball, and he's just on fire, quite literally on
yeah,
fire. That
I like
Sarah's
the
never
effect
ever gonna
here.
forget that. Yeah, the effect was pretty good.
Yeah,
It was,
I think it was a good effect because they kind of blistered and blackened, and then he's calling out after her. There's a moment of sadness. You almost feel sorry for him if he wasn't a bad boy that shot people in the back. It's a bad back shooting little boy.
he like leans over at the end like he's out of breath before exploding.
Yeah.
He's like, oh bloody hell, that was a. I feel like Andy Conduit Turner on his Santa run on Sunday. Oh
Yeah.
wait, bang, exploded.
That didn't happen to me, thankfully. I just
Glad to hear.
took the woolly beard off afterwards and was like, "That's all right." Actually,
That's right. I'm
I've calmed
fine.
it
I'm
down a
not
little
on
bit.
fire. I'm not on fire anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't explode like he did, and then we see another section where I thought there'd be. This is another weird choice. I'll talk about a little bit about the film making here. Like, I think there's such a lot of nice interest in it, but it feels like sometimes it just steps back or doesn't quite have what I would expect from a finale or a big action scene here.
hmm.
Like, again, maybe it was in the bar scene, it for what is essentially a horror movie and for what was available at the time, did they just not have a practical effects creator that was super confident in the craft, or did they not have an action choreographer that thought it would that had those shots here? Because it felt like quite a lot of the live cuts and some of the things that would have been the perhaps some of the more gory moments were kind of cut away from, and then you would see the aftermath.
Yeah, there was little to
In
no gore really, was there? It was one of those
and in
films.
this final section where we have the the end of our two lead vampires, you just see that the things that they've put together in the car is failing. Enough sun has got through from the windows being broken, everything else. So they are, like Homer,
Burning
about
right up, yeah.
they're all burning up. We get to see Caleb, who says roast. He says roast.
Oh yeah, he says roast, and they go, "I'd love one actually. I'd love one. You know
Obviously,
anywhere?"
Diamondback says something like fantastic.
I'm gonna get you. I don't know. He says something, doesn't he? While
Just
him and
roast, and then she goes, "Oh, our
absolutely
best,
boiling
our bisto," and then it's
roast pork, chicken, turkey, beef. I don't know. Let's go find one.
and then she goes Toby Carvery, and then they explode. That car.
At the mere suggestion of Toby Carvery, they say, "Oh, I'd rather this car explodes now," and that's what happens.
Yeah.
That car explodes, and so basically, all apart from May, all of the immortal vampires are all dead by the end of this 90-minute movie.
They're
So,
all
if
been
anything,
blasted away, and then May, ever so poorly, but wrapped in a denim jacket that saves her from the sun.
yeah,
And the next thing you know, May is waking up. She's better from being a vampire, in fact, that she's been given a blood transfusion.
yeah, felt like the easy way out. You know, I feel like if she died in this moment, it had a lot more impact. Or if somehow Caleb sacrificed himself to save her. Do you know what I mean? It needed something like that. It needed the fact that it just gets an ending, which is him saying to her, "No," she says, "I'm scared," and he goes, "Don't be scared. It's only the sun."
Yeah, and she goes, "Oh,
That's the
so it is
end.
actually. I'm
Yeah,
nice
I don't know.
actually." Um,
Emotional weight. I feel like just it was next. It had next to nothing at this
I'm
end.
not against the blood transfusion being the solution, but I just feel like it had to be in some way explained.
Yeah, it wasn't explained, was it? It was really like used as a plot device, a magic blood transfusion, similar to like I don't know, like a first aid spray in Resident Evil. You know,
Yeah.
what's
Oh,
that? You've been bitten by
much
a zombie? Just get a bit of first aid spray on it. How does that work then?
much
You don't need to
much
know.
much better as it happens, actually. And we don't have the religious connotations of vampires. They're just injured by
Mm.
sunlight. But maybe it is like just a
Yeah,
line thrown away. Like, we did this because, when you get bitten by a vampire, it does that. But actually, if you have a transfusion of pure human blood or whatever, it would
it replaces
we,
the
we, we can we
infected
consume
blood somehow.
we
Maybe, yeah.
consume just the plasma or the iron or something like that. But if you actually get this type of transfusion, then
Yeah,
that'll fit you right, actually. Like that'll, but
yeah.
we don't get that moment. We don't
No,
get.
it feels like the stuff with the dad and the sisters, like not. If he could have meant. No, actually, he wouldn't know he's a vampire, would he? I don't know. It felt like it was missing a certain something. A certain je
A
ne
scene,
sais quoi.
a scene where the dad goes to the library, or maybe
Yeah.
they get vampire bats there. You could say, "I'll tell you what, sometimes getting bitten by a vampire bat make your cows poorly. So if you give them a transfusion from another cow, actually counteracts
Wow.
it.
Okay.
Because you could,
Interesting.
it's poor science, but it's better than nothing,
Better
right?
than nothing. Yeah. It's better than just
Um,
oh, what happened? Yeah.
it's only the
And
sun.
that's that. That's the end of Near Dark. Have you got any name game?
I got a couple for you, Ben. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Um, so what's the synopsis for this movie? I'll try and work with that.
Synopsis for this movie is a ragtag group of. I'm just making it up because I can't remember. The synopsis for this movie is a small town farmer's son reluctantly joins a traveling group of vampires after he's bitten by a beautiful drifter, a vampire.
Okay, so a young farmhand reluctantly joins a group of cleaning chemical salesmen when someone spills a lager on his shirt, and he just can't get like the stain out.
Beer, beer, beer. Mark.
Beer mark, correct.
Jesus Christ.
The next
Yeah.
one, a young boy, a young farmhand, reluctantly joins a, a group tour to go to Alton Towers because it's ever so expensive to go to on a normal day ticket.
Deer Park.
A deer park, correct.
It's a very deer park. It is, yeah.
Next, a young farmhand reluctantly joins a group of botanists in his ongoing quest to investigate the rough surface of a tree, but only at the backside of it.
Rear bark.
Rear bark, correct. And finally, a young farmhand reluctantly joins a group of people who are just really socially confident, immense self-confidence. He joins that group because he's lived his life where he's terribly afraid of people just being quite abrasive and rude to him, sending disparaging comments his way.
Fear snark.
Fear snark. He does fear a bit of snark. Have you got any snark, Ben, off the old
days? I've got two. They're pretty awful. Similar to the one you just did. A small town farmer's son. Well, actually, this kind of dies. This links to it a bit. A small town farmer's son who falls down from space.
Yeah.
And is raised by someone called Martha and someone else called what's the other guy called? Jonathan. And you know what? Is his alter ego, these group of traveling vampires, they don't really care about his alter ego Superman, but they are scared of just his normal demeanor.
Do they fear Clark?
They just fear Clark, yeah. As soon as he takes his glasses off, they're like, oh, I'm not even bothered.
I mean, it uses one of the same words again, but a young boy in inner city London reluctantly joins a group of horrible roustabouts, and their hobby is calling a young Mr. Corrigan clean shirt and giving him all kinds of grief as he walks past on his way back from work.
Is it fear Mark?
They don't fear him. What do? They're making fun of him, going, all right, clean shirt. What are they doing?
Have you already used the word?
We haven't used the first word. We just used Mark before.
Oh, okay. Jeer
Mark.
Hey, Jeer Mark. All right, clean shirt. Do you want a bit of my Coke?
Yeah.
I got one more. It's pretty awful.
Go on.
Small town farmer's son reluctantly joins a traveling group of vampires who, after there's a big flash flood across planet Earth, Noah says, I've developed this massive boat, right? But I've actually rejigged the design a little bit for vampires to be included as well. It's actually shaped like something that's on the side of your head. And it floats much better than the one I had before.
Is it the ear arc?
It's the ear arc, yeah. All the vampires get on it. I got to stop writing these down and not thinking about the description at all until this very
just
moment.
Write the words down and make them up.
Just write the words down and make them up on the spot. It's not always handy. Okay. Now we got to rate the movie. How are you going to rate Kathryn Bigelow's Near Dark? Consider it as the first watch as well.
Consider it as a first watch, and actually going through it again, I think this one for me is a bit of a near miss. I can see the quality of the filmmaking that's there, but I feel like there were some of the technical elements of the film where they just didn't quite have what they need. There's no shortage of acting talent in it, Severin in particular, as well as old Bishop himself. Like there are some good performances that come from this, but it feels like in the acting and the execution of some of the action scenes and some of the effects that were in this one, the fact that they have to, I think they dial back on some of the horror elements, and there are some decent things, but I found it notable that they would cut away from a few things, or we didn't have the really exciting. I don't think we got the finale that perhaps this film deserved, and then in its place you get like that, you get a good few minutes of that bus station scene, which effectively is rendered completely moot.
Yeah.
Then he gets off the bus and they've droopy dog waiting for him at the place that he's running to.
We knew you were coming here.
Yeah. So there are things like that which affect the pacing and affect the execution a little bit. Like, imagine, if you will, Ben, this with like, like a Tom Savini like budgets, Tom
Oh
Savini
yeah,
like
for some of the gore moments and stuff.
practical
Yeah.
effects and some of those gore moments. This is one of those embarrassing moments. We'll look and it'll turn out he did them. He's just having a bad day. But
No,
but
surely
like
not.
looking at that, or just the way that the action and the final things, I think like the final characters would have deserved a more dramatic send off than just being in that car and
Mm.
exploding quite a distance away from the main characters and the transfusion. So there are things that make this fall down a little bit for me, but there is something to enjoy in this as well. So I'm going to
Yeah.
give Near Dark. I would like to give it another watch. I'm not going to go into the D territory. I'm going to give this a C minus.
C minus. Okay. I think I was going to go for a C plus, but maybe I'll go for a C, straight C, just because there's a lot of stuff about it that I kind of noticed while we're chatting about it that perhaps didn't sit so well with me. The transfusion stuff as a plot device, maybe the final act as well. Like, it's a really cool film. Like, it's a really cool looking film. It's directed well. The soundtrack's great. As like a neo western's a good way of describing it. With vampires, yes. Would it have worked just as well without vampires? Probably. Did the sort of vampire lore stuff hold it back a bit? Yeah, I think it did. And for that reason, and because of like the central love story and the central two characters are nowhere near as interesting as the supporting characters, obviously heavyweights of 80s action and horror, with everybody involved, and the cast is absolutely stacked. So it's still enjoyable because you're still watching Bill Paxton chew it up on the screen as best as he could, and Lance Henriksen and Jenette Goldstein effortlessly cool. So for that reason, I'm just going to go for a straight C, just because I think it was lacking in terms of the story and the plot a little bit. I'd never quite felt like the stakes, even when they still like the little sister, I never felt like the stakes were always that high, and I was never surprised by what came next. So
It's one of
yeah,
those things. I think
straight
that
C.
you could there are minor changes to it that we already talked about. You could do something, even if it was grubby and a little bit hand wavy, do something about the blood transfusion. Or perhaps if you make Caleb like unsatisfied with his life at the farm, so he kind of runs away with this girl that
Yeah,
he's seen in, same amount of screen time,
he
but
wants to be a vampire. Yeah,
you have him encounter her a couple of times and be kind of intrigued by her, and then it's the fact that his family come looking for him that makes him think, mm, it's this is not what I'm into, and
yeah. The grass ain't
or
always greener,
perhaps
mate.
or perhaps they get his family proactively to try and push him over the edge to do a kill and say, I'll kill someone or I'm going to kill you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
could make what would be fairly minor tweaks. Obviously, you can't because this one's been made now. It's in the past. Then past
yeah,
is a foreign land, but you could have done slight minor changes and kept to the core of this story and made the vampire stuff fit in with everything else you were doing. Because setting wise for a vampire movie, it's great.
yeah, yeah.
What a cool way to set it where
Oh
they're
yeah,
they're
100%.
existing in an environment which is more hostile to them
Yeah,
rather than it being in dark and spooky castles. So I think there's great stuff to do it, but they just kind of hit the
yeah,
bar. Little football
yeah.
reference for you there.
Little football reference for me, thank you. Yeah. So I think we recommend it because it's one of those movies, especially based on the cast, it's worth checking out. But yeah, Kathryn Bigelow, definitely you can see the sort of, it shows you. I never realized that she'd been making films from sort of like the 80s. I kind of thought I wasn't massively familiar with her work before. What
Like a
movie
more
did she make?
modern era, like 2000s onwards.
Point Break, isn't it?
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right. She directed Point Break. I think that was the
what year?
first
What year
film.
is Point Break?
91.
Okay.
So a few years before that, I guess she cut her teeth on Near Dark. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. Like to have these
Yeah, from
films with such heavy hitters to your name.
from a technical point, like I said, there are some individual shots outside of the action pieces, the framing and the way that they set the scene. Like, look at your background there with like the vampires coming over
Oh
that
yeah,
hill.
that's a great shot.
Those are great. I just think it's the for a horror movie and a horror movie of the 80s, where we have such an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the application of practical effects. It wasn't an era that they backed away from there being horror or gore or things like that. I think you could have just hit that a little bit harder in those things. But the things outside those areas, the technical filmmaking is really strong.
Yeah. So she went from Near Dark to Blue Steel with Jamie Lee Curtis to Point Break. So yeah, pretty good trio of films to be involved with. I know we've not been super generous to this one, but still, I think we're kind of rating it from a horror movie standpoint as well, aren't we?
Okay. I think we're fair. We're not saying, I'll tell you what, absolute shit, mate. Don't even bother. take the Oscar back. Not at all. But like, I think
no.
But I think, for a horror movie, there are opportunities, especially like if you consider like some of the 80s horror classics that come in the vampire space, particularly
around about these years as well, like 87. Well, the whole of the 80s, really. Okay, there we go. So that's Near Dark. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thank you to our current patrons, who include John Crinham, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Laura Kendrick, Toby Miller, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Birch, and Pazuzu. Thank you all for your continued support. Thank you to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review, and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just search Horror Hangout Podcast on all those platforms. You'll find us. Next week, we're joined by Holly Moore for Salem's Lot. So looking forward to that. More vampires.
Yeah, looking forward to these vampires. I've not seen Salem's Lot for a little while. I'm looking forward to a revisit.
Yeah, and there's a remake coming up as well, so it'd be good to get ourselves familiarized before that. Nice one.
Ben, is there a TV Salem's Lot from like early 2000s?
I think there is, yeah.
Maybe I'll try and get that down me as well.
I think there is. Yeah, and of course, thank you finally to Andy for being a right horror dude.
Thank you, Ben, for being right horror dude, and thank you to all the right horror dudes at home listening along here. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye for now, everyone. See you at Salem's Lot.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.